Have you always wanted one that would really work? Well, now here's your chance because it's everything you've always wanted and more. It not only dices, slices, chops, and peels, but also shines your shoes and acts as a calorie and weight counter for the weight conscious in your family. Now, how much would something like this be worth to you? But wait, there's more. You also get this free attachment kit, which allows you to hear all the greatest Ricky Nelson songs. And while you're listening to his greatest song, Garden Party, why don't you just have one? It's easy, because with one simple flick of a switch, one movement of your wrist, it turns into a combination roulette wheel and dance floor. So whatever you do, buy today. You don't want to be the only one on your block without one. I'm Dr. Jeff Kaplan, and for over 30 years I've traveled the globe from Dubai to Moscow and Johannesburg, from Singapore to Shanghai and Istanbul. I've studied the world's best businesses and the people that run them. But something is very different now. From the boardroom to the break room, there's a growing realization that our relationship with work is broken. But it's not too late. You still have a choice. Hold on to the past and struggle to survive, or join the willing, change, and thrive in the world of tomorrow that's already arrived. So if you're willing to think different, willing to work different, willing to change at the speed of now, then you're willing to win. Hello again, this is Willing to Win, and I'm Jeff Kaplan.
And I'm Tara Thomas Getman. You have to laugh at that, I guess, cold open, as we call it in technical terms. It's so true, right? That so much of selling is stereotyped and portrayed in movies as just this over-the-top, obnoxious reality. But the fact is, everybody sells. And I have to plug your book. You wrote a book called Everybody Sells. It's an easy read. Anybody would enjoy it because it does really prove that theory. We're all selling something.
Absolutely. And before we get started with today's show, I just want to say that I'm willing to put on the line some really good Willing to Win swag from the Willing to Win swag store, the store you can buy all of our logo gear, for anybody who can tell me what they think the product was. Right, what was under the sheet? That's the key.
I love it.
That's the key. But I got to tell you something. When we talk about Everybody Sells, there's this whole psychology about selling. People think about selling in terms of the things that they're most scared about in their life. Right? It's like public speaking. Waking up. What is it? The dream people have? They wake up nude in the hallway at school, late for the final
right.
exam. Right?
You forgot your clothes.
And right up there with that is having to sell something. But it really doesn't have to be that way, because everybody sells. And when I think about this, I understand why people feel the way they do about sales, because sales that were like the opening piece, right? That isn't something that it's easy to take pride in, because that's
True.
really trying to trick somebody, right? That's a win and a loss, right? That's a winner and a loser kind of a zero-sum game. That is not what we're about here, because this is willing to win, right? How do we win? And so, but when I think back on my first sales job, I was the son of a salesperson. My dad was an in-home seller, and naturally, I wanted to be a great salesperson. I had no opinion other than, I know that my dad was really excited about this thing that he did when he went to people's homes, and sometimes he came home and he was really excited and we had money. So, hey, I want to do that, right? So I was too young to do in-home sales. I was only like 16 years old. So I was going to be a cold caller, baby. Cold call. Now, I don't know if you know much about sales, but the worst part about sales is the cold call. That was going to be my job, right? So I go to this interview in Panorama City, California, and this is no story, so people know the area. If you know the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles, it's at the corner of Van Nuys Boulevard and Roscoe, right? And I go into this place, and it's the kind of place that had like stains on the ceiling, right? Metal desks with rust. So you get the idea. It was just desks with, phones on them, and people just slamming phones all day. And I'm greeted by this morbidly obese man. Looks like sort of like a Tim Farley in those old. I live in a house down by the river.
Chris Farley, yes.
Right? Down by the river. And so he comes and greets me, and I'll never forget this guy. Right? He had this short tie on that was really wide and had stains that were layered. I mean, you could see what he'd eaten for lunch and breakfast for the last several days. And he had one really weepy eye. And he was like, he'd kind of lean in and look at you, but he led with the weepy eye, which made it even freakier, right? But I was absolutely, excited about being there. And I wanted to show him, that I knew my sales stuff. So I looked at him, and the first thing I said is, I am ready to go right now. I just need my lead list. I'm the son of a salesperson. I need my lead list. And I thought he'd be impressed by that. And he goes, lead list, huh, kid? Son of a salesperson, huh, kid? That's great. Come here, let's give you a try. So he takes me over to this desk. He sits me down. He opens up a drawer, and he pulls out a white paper.
Yellow pages or white pages.
White
yes,
pages.
yes, yes.
I kept forgetting because the one that just had the names of all the just lists of people. And he took that, and he holds it up, and he goes, you see this, kid? And he slammed it down on the desk, and he goes, here's your lead list for you. And you know what? We alphabetized it already for you. So all you have to do is start at A. And when you get to Z, don't worry, we'll get you another one.
Oh my gosh.
And so this was my thing. I was to call these people and do this pitch. And the one thing he remembered is he goes, not everybody's going to want this. So just remember, 99 no's get you a yes. Right? And so that was his, thing. And the thing is, it really is kind of crazy if you think about the psychology of traditional sales, right? Which is a winner and a loser, right? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be involved. The buyers don't want to have the experience with the sellers. Do you remember what it was like to go buy a car? Right? My wife to this day will not even step into the dealership. It's like, let's pick it out online, do that, then you can go do the negotiation. And luckily all that stuff is changed now, right? But in those days, that's really how it was. And the psychology of selling was flawed, but the psychology of who are salespeople was flawed too. Because think about it, right? What was his one admonition, right? 99 no's, get you a yes, right? Think about this. Most people that have an aggressive or a above average outgoing personality, somebody who's really outgoing, right? More than you would think is normal for somebody, right? Those people are usually pegged as salespeople.
True.
Why do people develop outgoing personalities? Well, psychology tells us that many people develop an outgoing personality to protect themselves from people knowing how shy they are. Right?
That's very true.
Now I'm shy, and I'm a shy person. I mean, if I go to a party, I'm very shy, in terms of meeting people that I haven't met before. So, you have this person who's got this shy personality. They develop this defense mechanism, right, which is this outgoing personality. Other people see that, and when they see it, they go to them, hey, you know what you should be? You should be a salesperson,
exactly.
Right? And so they take the advice of their friends. They don't, know anything more. They take their advice. They go into this profession. And in sales, it is often where you don't have a salary or you have some portion of a salary. And then, you have to earn most of your salary based on commissions, like what you sell. And so you go into a business where 99 no's get you a yes. So these people who are shy and insecure now go into a profession where they're professionally rejected. Number one. And then if they do well, they can become a hero in their company, and everybody will applaud them for winning that quarterly sales contest, right? So they're a hero, but then what happens? Overnight,
starts all over.
Yeah, somebody comes and takes that dry erase board, right? Takes it off of there, and you go from hero to zero. So now you're in a profession where you're professionally rejected each day. You can only get so far, and then you have to start over again and again in your career, basically tearing down any progress that you've made with your self-esteem.
Yes.
It's maddening, right? But the fact remains that sales is a big part of what we do, right? I will tell you that after that experience with my first sales job, I was absolutely sure of one thing in business. One thing for sure, that I was absolutely, positively, 1,000,000% sure that I would never, ever be a salesperson, right? Because
never say never.
Never say never. Because by the time I was in my 30s and I was running my own business, and I realized that sales is the only job there is. Right? The sales is the only job there is. We're all selling something all the time. And so I started looking for better models of what sales could be. Because we do. We want to exchange goods and services. You want a car. You want a great car, right? You want a car that's right for you and you want to get good value. That should not be insurmountable. We should be able to work it out so you win.
Yes.
And the people that provide the service of, inventorying the car, making it available to you locally, providing information, service on the car, that's a value too. We should figure out how to distribute that value in a way that's optimized for both people, right? And so when I thought about the model, I thought about the traditional sales model, right? And you can imagine it if you've not been through a sales training, you've never been a professional salesperson, it may be new to you, but there's a thing called a sales funnel. And basically just imagine a funnel that you'd have with, for cooking or something like that, where you put the ingredients on the top and it goes through an ever narrowing passage to come out at the end. Well, that top part of the funnel where you can put anything in, that's everybody in the world. Those are all the people that could buy our product. So the way we do marketing and sales is we invest a little to that broad audience that could buy, and then if they show some interest, we keep marching them through the funnel, ever getting narrower, invest a little more, ask a little more specific question, qualify them and their interest to the point where we get down to the small group of people that are really willing to buy, and then we make our presentations and we sell, right? That's the process. But I was thinking there's got to be a better model than that, and it reminded me of what I see at the grocery store all the time. Not in the grocery store. What's out front? Who has a table out front?
The Girl Scouts.
The Girl Scouts. And those girls can sell cookies, right? It's amazing, right? What do? They don't go out to strangers who they haven't developed relationships with yet, right? What they do is they go ahead and recruit their parents. Their parents take boxes of cookies to work, or they take the order forms, and they go up and down the hall and say, Bill, Diane, Chris, Phyllis, I bought 5 boxes from your kids. You're buying 5 boxes for my kids. And those sales happen every time, right? And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, wait a second, why don't we create a brand of selling that starts by building relationships? And then from those relationships, then do the transactions. And we've talked about this before when we did the Trash Day episode, where the best relationships in our life, we know the transactional components, the love and affection, right? But
True.
Those aren't the focus of the relationship. They're the byproducts. How do we create a sales process that reflects that, right? And so I was, thinking about that, and basically, got together this idea about the Girl Scout cookies and how we create, a better sales process. And then we decided to write this book. It's called Everybody Sells. And Everybody Sells talks about how we can get that win-win. And that's not a new concept. Some people have talked about it, but I'm talking about institutionalizing the idea of a win-win in sales. But more importantly, this book goes and says, if we are so successful in life when we stop thinking Superman and Superwomen and start thinking Justice League, couldn't we do the same thing with sales? And so we started understanding and examining and doing research on team-based selling. Some people don't like to go ask for the deal. Some people don't like to wine and dine customers. Some people don't like the technical aspects of selling or product specifications, right? But if you can pull a team together where everybody's doing the thing they love, True. Right, and you distribute that, then sort of all the pressure is diminished, right? And that's what we found in the book, and it's really exciting. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that they sell, because everybody does sell. And I just want to, turn my comments directly to the audience and say, is anyone that can hear my voice or see this podcast video, is anyone out there single? Well, then you are in sales. Is anyone out there looking for a job or wanting to get a promotion, or are you applying for a loan for your small business? Well, you are in sales. Is there anyone just looking for a helping hand? Right? Then you are in sales. And that's why Willing to Win has made it one of our goals to redefine selling for the age of mutual success, for mutual support, for mutual success. So today, we are announcing a very special new series that features a breed of modern sales professionals that are nothing like the person that we saw in the opening segment. These are people that are changing the rules of the road, creating a new type of sales, and we're calling the series The World's Best Sellers.
I had the opportunity to catch up with somebody who at first was, a person you would have admired for those skills, who now has become a friend. Let's check in and hear what this person has to say. Again, one of the world's best sellers in the view of Willing to Win.
What was your career journey?
Yeah, great question. Very long and arduous. I studied sociology and law when I was in university up in Vancouver, Canada. I thought I was going to go into nonprofit and was set up to work with a large nonprofit fundraising company. and decided to do the most irresponsible thing of my young adult life and decided to turn down the job opportunity and went traveling for 6 weeks in Southeast Asia and ended up finding a contracting position with a marketing role at a biopharmaceutical company in Vienna, Austria. And during that time, learned that I very much loved looking at data and analytics, but really enjoyed being in front of people that much more. And was starting to look at different career roles. And my mother's best friend growing up, my godmother, is an IT director for a large law firm in the States. And she had a Cisco account manager who had gone through Cisco's early in career program called the Cisco Sales Associate Program, really focusing on taking early in careers, training them up on how Cisco goes to market, our whole entire portfolio, working with customers. And I decided to give it a shot, even though I knew nothing about the technology world. I didn't know the difference between a switch and a router. And I applied to this program and got in and moved from Vienna, Austria to Raleigh, North Carolina, and joined Cisco about 7 years ago. So that's how I ended up at Cisco.
That's a great story. You clearly went into something that perhaps is stereotypically male dominated. Would that be an accurate assessment? So tell me how you navigate that and, advice for other women trying to do the same.
Definitely. So very frequently, more often than not, I would say I am usually the only female in the room. So it is very much a male-dominated industry, to your point. And I was, I guess, lucky in that I've experienced that my whole entire life, personally and professionally, where I played ice hockey growing up. So I grew up around a very male-dominated sport. And you know what? At the end of the day, I think what's really helped me is just being authentic and owning who you are.
My peer, my co-host, Jeff Kaplan, has identified you as a world's bestseller, somebody that he feels has that it factor. So how does it feel to be qualified, described in that way, but then also to just be somebody who is often the outlier, being perhaps the only woman who has a seat at the table?
Well, first off, that is incredibly flattering to hear Jeff speak so highly of me. I respect him and have learned a lot from him in my career at Cisco too. So just had to say that. But at the end of the day, I think it's knowing that we can't do this alone, right? It all comes down to mentorship and sponsorship, and specifically the importance of sponsorship. There's some great case studies that show that in general, men tend to have more sponsors than women in the workplace. And it's super important that not only do we mentor others, but we also sponsor others to make sure that they can move forward in their career. So I have been very fortunate to have mentors and sponsors who have taken it upon themselves to help me get to the next step in my career. And that's something that I love as well. I love mentoring and developing others in Cisco, outside of Cisco. That's something that really turns my pilot light on brighter every day, is when I get to incorporate that into my day.
What have you learned about puppies?
Hey, puppy!
No, Jimbo, puppies are evil. Stacy, read back the notes.
I can't read. What's it say?
This is my team? A musclehead, a bunch of yes men, and a doodler?
Exactly. Affirmative.
Put that cookie down. Cookies are for closers.
My first job in Peoria, Illinois, my supervisor was a woman who would give me a little stack of note cards, and I had to go through each and every one of these note cards, asking often senior citizens to consider 7 to 10 year magazine subscriptions for things like TV Guide. So much of selling has a negative connotation, and it's played out in Hollywood.
Yeah, if there's anybody that has had experience in selling, and appreciates it both as the profession and sport that it can be, they definitely have Alex Baldwin and Glenn Ross at the top of their all-time clips list, where he comes out and he writes ABC on the board and he says these are the fundamentals of selling. Always be closing. Always be closing. Well, when we wrote Everybody Sells, we changed that a little bit. It's still ABC, but it's always be collaborating, right? Always be collaborating. You're going to create better solutions for yourself. You're going to have more fun in the process. And what we're really finding as we do all this work on the future of business and we work with people in the Legion is that we're just 1 or 2 slight modifications away from changing processes to really have fun again. And it's super, super exciting. And I just want to sort of bring a couple of things together here as we move into the uplift and challenge our audience to this week's challenge. And that really is to remember that we've got to practice some basic principles in everything we do, whether it's selling, job search, our relationships, what have you. Now, we've talked a lot about college students and the need for them to both start and settle their job search as early as possible. Don't wait to be a senior, and if you're a senior, don't freak out. There's still hope and all that stuff, but it's a lot easier if you do it as a junior or if you do it as a sophomore. That would be preferable. And we also talked about what it takes to make that work, to be able to line up a job a year or two before you're even ready to graduate. Number one, you have to know what you want. Number two, you have to be able to articulate it in a way that others can help. And number three, we've got to shift our view from, instead of asking ourselves, what are the things I need to do to accomplish this goal, to asking a much better question, which is, who are the people critical to my success? And then the final part of the formula is, how do I proactively and purposefully set out to make those connections real, to develop those relationships. And the thing is, you have to ask yourself, why does this work? Because it works because you can't wake up tomorrow, and I'm sorry to tell you if you didn't know this, Tara, in case this is news to you, but you can't wake up tomorrow twice as smart. I'm sorry, you cannot wake up tomorrow.
Definitely true.
And I can't wake up tomorrow and be twice as sexy. No matter what I think about, no matter how I believe before I go to bed, that's not going to happen. And we can't wake up tomorrow and be twice as funny. It takes years. Smart takes years. Sexy takes confidence and a lot of work in the gym. And funny is a lot harder than people think. It reminds me of my favorite movie, my favorite year, when Peter O'Toole said this.
If I were truly plastered, could I do this? Senator Bummicelli, would you hold my sword?
Well, we know we can do that.
Yes, dying is easy and comedy is hard. Comedy is an art. It takes years to master. Luckily, I put in the work, and I think that I should be, brought into the Dad Humor Hall of Fame, although my kids definitely disagree. But we call this the SSF rule, right? The SSF rule. Smart, sexy, funny. How can you become twice as smart, twice as sexy, twice as funny? Well, this is where the Legion comes in, right? If you have a great business idea, but you don't know finance, right? If you have a commercial that's going to sell your product and it's going to be the best commercial ever, but you don't know anything about modeling. If you want to deliver a message about your product that's universally funny, but you don't really think that you're a funny person, well, in the Willing to Win Legion, there are finance superheroes. There are spokespeople and models that are superstars. There are heroically funny people that are both professional and amateur stand-up comics. And all of them are literally one relationship away from helping you achieve your dreams. So think Justice League, not Superman or Superwoman. And if that's true in our personal success, why would we do anything different at work? And we keep saying this over and over again, right? If the stuff that works in our personal relationships works so well with the relationships that are most important to us in our life, why would we do anything different at work? So if that's true, if my goal, my function is selling, and I know that I'm better when I have a team in my personal life, why don't I develop a sales team? Once again, that was the premise of Everybody Sells. Develop team-based selling that makes the process fun, it makes it less stressful, because everyone shares in the responsibility. So today's uplift tip is to start early, to build your team, and because we practice what we preach in our house, everything we say here, I try to impart on my kids because I want them to have these tools. One of our youngest sons, Nick, and this has got to be 5 or 6 years ago, he always wanted, ever since he was a little kid, he's wanted to be a sportscaster. Now the problem is there aren't a lot of sportscaster classes around that he can take, especially when you're 10 years old.
Exactly.
So what we did is his mom built the sets and I helped him write a script for him to cover as a sportscaster the Rio Olympics 5 years ago. Let's take a look.
This is Nick from Nick Picks saying, my hero's not on the field. He's up in the booth behind the mic. I'm coming for you, Costas, 2036.
That is so fun, and I know Nick, and the fact that he at that age was able to not just say, hey, this is something I want to do, but put in the time, get off the video games, and actually realize his passion at a young age. And then the cool thing is, thanks to the platform of YouTube via the internet, he really had a lot of views and was able to share and show off a passion that before would have been relegated to, only the neighbors maybe get to peek in on you living out your dream.
Right? And if it happened to come up, and I tell you, you got several thousand views, and this was 5 years ago when things weren't instantly 1 million views. We're really, really proud of that. But here's what I was really thinking in that, right? Number one, it's going to give him confidence, right? He can see that. And if he continues doing it, he's going to be able to see his own project progress objectively. Because when you're in your own skin, you're the worst critic, right?
Yes.
So he's going to be able to see that progress objectively. And then I imagined that someday he would actually be competing for a newscaster job, and they all walk in with their reels, probably doing local sports and trying to get to a national, platform or something. But here he is, and then he's got this thing from 10 years old that says, I've wanted to do this my whole life. Now, the last 5 people said the same thing, but they didn't have that tape, right?
Yes.
He has proof of that. So these are the kinds of things that we do when we're trying to figure out how to help people be successful with their own sales efforts, because everybody does sell. So this week's new leadership challenge is this. I'd like each one of our listeners to make a list of what they're selling in their life. Do you want a promotion? Are you looking for a sports, casting job? Then this list, then next to each of those things that you want to sell, list the contacts that would help you make that sale easy. For example, if for some reason, knowing you because you've been in the broadcasting business, your entire adult life, you may know Bob Costas' manager or somebody that is his personal assistant, right? And so if I write down, hey, I want to be a newscaster, and Tara knows people in the business, maybe I could ask her if she knows somebody who knows somebody. All of a sudden, I've taken the serendipity, right? That miraculous moment that seems to be in every very successful person's story. I've taken that miraculous thing that happened by chance, and I've made it purposeful. Right? I've made it purposeful. So we can make selling fun when it's a team-based sport. We can involve others, and we can take the chance of being successful out of the equation and turn that into a very distinct possibility.
It's inspiring. And, it's funny that we talk about Nick with his mantra of coming for Costas. And that reminds me, in college at Boston University, we were assigned in a production class to do what we call a package or a video where we go out and produce it from start to finish. Turns out one of my classmates' fathers was a personal friend of Mr. Costas. So he did the voiceover.
Now, we didn't talk about this before. I didn't know that. Right?
This is
what I'm talking about.
He does the voiceover for this kid's package. So we air all of our stories collectively to be judged by your peers. And we're like, sorry to slam my hand down there if you're listening on the radio. Oh, great. He's got it in the bag. He gets the best grade in the class because he got Mr. Professional Bob Costas to do the voiceover. And what it came down to is one phone call, one relationship. Who among that board of directors, as you call it in our lives, is one connection away from helping us realize our dream? And it's amazing because like that Kevin Costner, not Costner, who's the guy from Footloose?
Bacon.
Thank you. Kevin Bacon, 6 Degrees of Separation.
Right.
We all in this world, as big and sort of global as it seems we're living, it's small, right? It's a small connection-based interpersonal relationship, and all it takes is that one individual to make a difference.
And I do want to follow on to that because we've done a lot of research into the 6 degrees of separation. The original research was that they took a package out in California, they addressed it to someone, and then the people had to just literally go and mail it someplace else that they thought was closer to that. So they would mail it geographically, and then when it got there, they had to literally, because they didn't have the address to find this person, they just knew the city, they just had to go and then hand it to a person that might know them, hand it to a person, and it took about 6 transactions to get there. Today, with the internet, they believe that's now only 3. So we are so close to having everything we want. It's sometimes just one relationship away, and that one relationship just hinges on our willingness to ask.
That's great. Go to our website, willingtowin.org, to join the Legion and tell us your story. Willing, written out the number 2, win.org. And thank you, as always, for sticking with us. Willing to Win is produced by Lift Productions. Guests on the program are not compensated, nor is their appearance representative of the Willing to Win views. Willing to Win does not necessarily endorse any people, products, or services.